My brother and I, we harvested the forest. We had trucks and we used to do this and do that sort of thing. And there were some crooked people everywhere, wasn't there? And they used to cut the trees down with a bow saw, not the chainsaw and that. The chainsaw wasn't, we're going back a long way. And they used to cut it down, pull it over, and the checker had come along and they'd cut it into lengths that they wanted, sort of, for the millers. And the checker had come along and he'd measure across the trunk of the bottom of the tree, across the section of it, and if it say was 10 inches, he'd put 10 inches on that side. And he'd mark the other end, sort of, and he'd put 9 inches of it. So that virtually worked in cubic measurement or whatever they did. It's 9.5. So they did that. But some of these crooked people used to cut the end bit off about that much, get rid of it, and put their measurement on it, which was a little bit bigger. Not a lot, but the other end, and they would do the same thing. But
first of all, my name is Jeff Gabriel, and I've been sort of involved in the timber industry since 1970. And I've sort of got involved in the process of how the log form comes into the mill to the end product. And I've seen logs 6 foot high laying down. It had to be craned in by tractor and double saws to just take one side off. Don't have big logs like that anymore. They're all gone by the wayside. But I first started as a timber stacker. I worked my way right through the mill to the bench, to up to grab driving and machine driving. And I loved it. I used to get involved in everything I could to learn as much as I could. And I've seen people come and go, and I've seen people think the job's easy, but not easy. It takes a lot of years to get right.
I trained at the Adelaide Children's Hospital, and while I was there we did the same exams as anyone trained at the Royal Adelaide, but we didn't have adult experience, which we had to do 6 months post-grad. And I did my midwifery in between time, and there were some girls from Mount Gambier there, and they said, "Oh, come to the Mount, do your 6 months down there." So I did in 1959. I'm still here. And on the ground floor, when you came in the front door, there were steps up to the front door, and matron's office was there, and the pharmacy was there as well, and also the X-rays, and then you sort of walked around, and then there were 2 theatres, the small theatre and the big theatre, and if someone needed a blood transfusion during that, we had to call in donors, and they were cross-matched, and they'd take their blood in the little theatre and give it to someone in the big theatre. For some reason or other, the nursing staff, they didn't provide any sweets for the patients at night, so we used to make bread and butter pudding because that's all we had. We had eggs and bread and milk, and so we'd make that for the patients.
That was the bank I worked in, but that's the ANZ and the ES&A combined. And it was a really beautiful building. It had the manager's residence upstairs. It had a beautiful flowing staircase down from his home into the back of the bank. So I worked there until I was married, and I was put off because in those days you were only allowed to work until you're married, and then you were put off. I did enjoy it. I'd gone as far as I could. I did everything in the bank, except they never let the ladies handle the money way back then, and that was a bit disappointing. So I used to sit behind the teller and he would put things through the little peephole, and I got down to be giving him a balance in under 3 minutes, and he said that was the best.
Well, I was a bit naughty at school. I didn't try as hard as I should have. I was probably brighter than my results in exams ever showed. I wanted to go to work, and I came home from school one day in 1963, and there was an advertisement in the Border Watch for a printer's devil. Yeah, it basically is an apprentice printer. My mother said, you're going to apply for this, and I applied for it. And I got the job. It was still letterpress, hot metal, basically living in the dark ages, really archaic, almost back to the 1900s. And then, because I was always very keen from a very young age to write, but eventually was able to convince people to move into the journalist department, and then I became a journalist and then an editor and later a manager. So Mr. R.J.R. Watson, we all called him R.J.R. or Mr. Watson, he was the owner, and Stuart Kieselbach was the editor, and Joan Tremelling was writing up the weddings, and this is in about the late 50s, might have been 1960. And what would happen is that there was a pro forma, and people were getting married. They would, what sort of dress, who was the best man. They'd write it all down, and then you'd write the story. Well, sometimes people would do it and drop that pro forma in before the wedding. So Joan wrote it up,
Yes.
and put it in the copy basket, what we called it, and had to hold, because we were waiting for the photograph, because you don't run a wedding report without the photo. So anyway, don't ask me how, but Stuart Kieselbach, who was the editor, actually ran the story with no photo. And of course, all hell broke loose, because you don't tell the public what the bride's wedding dress is going to look like. So anyway, there was a big... Mr. Watson, he wasn't very happy, so he and Stuart Kieselbach had a big argument about it, and the family, both the families, groom and the bride's families, weren't happy. Eventually, the upshot of it all was that Mr. Watson decided he would buy the bride a new dress, which, of course, in those days was probably a lot of money. And so eventually the report went in with the photograph, but a different dress.
I learned a trade with a bloke called Jim Perriman. He's a builder. Jim employed a lot of young blokes in days. He came from the Bay, and I got a job with him as a builder. And I built a lot of buildings in the town. Rebuilt the Water Gents Hotel. I built a wall near the footpath. The Gents used to have shops underneath it, and Brunswick's had an office there too. There were offices along the wall, along that where the dining rooms is. I done work on the church at Catholic Church and the Baptist Church across the road. I worked on all the churches. My last job was over at the church. I built the ladies' toilets there. Yeah, I worked on the steep right at the top. Had a crane lift me up there. Yeah, long way up there.
Yeah, once upon a long time.